Alex McFarland is a leading Christian apologist. If you're wondering, that doesn't mean he apologizes for the faith. It means he defends Christ's history and shows why you can trust it. To get there, he first explains what historians want.
They want eyewitness testimony. They want multiple testimony. They want early testimony. And the fourth is hostile testimony.
As for eyewitness and early, the Gospels Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are by men who either knew Jesus in the flesh or got their facts from eyewitnesses, like Mary, the mother of Jesus, and others. Paul's epistles are written by a man who encountered the resurrected Christ.
We have got the Gospels coming to us from less than 10 years after the cross.
Compare that to the 643 ancient copies of Homer's Iliad, whose authenticity scholars don't question.
But from the time of the writing to the copies we have, more than 500 years. In fact, around 900 years. We've got the Annals of Caesar, which comes to us in several dozen copies. But again, from the earliest copies we have, the time of writing, nearly a millennia, 1,000 years.
Compare that to the main facts about Christ.
The core of Jesus' identity message credentials was in circulation regularly within 8 weeks after the cross.
As for hostile testimony, or at least not pro-Christian, many outside sources wrote of this Jesus.
A worker of wonders, did miracles, claimed to be God, crucified at Passover. The core facts of the gospel, death, deity, and resurrection, just based on ancient Jewish, Greek, and Roman sources that certainly were no friend to the burgeoning church. That's very compelling to historians because it represents objectivity, that those no friend of the movement also corroborate the core facts of what we know about Jesus.
Will Durant, an atheist most of his life, but possibly the world's most trusted historian, testified this.
The four Gospels are absolutely trustworthy from an historical standpoint.
Durant would say if you reject those,
we would also have to reject 100 other ancient names, the authenticity of which no historian would dream of questioning. Aristotle, Julius Caesar, people that we don't have as much evidence for as we do for Jesus.
Filmmaker Rick Larson finds proof of Christ and the miraculous world around him in a whole different sphere, scientific evidence.
There are two great events in Christianity. There's the incarnation and there's the execution and resurrection. Those are the two great events. And those two things, God chose to leave hard evidence that we can find today and show that they occurred.
In the Star of Bethlehem documentary, Larson found there really was a light in the heavens that guided the wise men to baby Jesus. It was even shown on coins made at the time. The Christquake shows how Larson's crew found in ground, once covered by the Dead Sea, the geologic ripples of the gigantic earthquake that split rocks at the very hour of Jesus' death. It all proves to Larson who God is.
The two documentaries show that the Star of Bethlehem was real, that's the heavens, and that the quake at the cross was real. So he is the Lord of heaven and earth. And he chose to leave enough evidence for us to see those things are true.
The Gospel of Matthew described both the star and quake.
And for both the Star of Bethlehem and for the quake at the cross, the facts we find, hard scientific facts we find are consistent with the record in Matthew.
As for the written record, remember those hundreds of ancient copies of Homer's Iliad or the dozens of Caesar's biographies? Well, many more manuscripts of the New Testament exist.
Fragments, portions, complete New Testaments, roughly 30,000 copies.
And even if we didn't have those,
we could reconstruct verbatim the entire New Testament, Matthew through Revelation, just based on more than 500,000 verse citations by early church leaders that have been discovered.
The trustworthy history in the New Testament finally brought the atheist master historian Durant around.
It is said that Durant became a Christian before he died because he was compelled by the historicity of Jesus.
McFarland's conclusion? A believer does need faith in Christ,
but it's a faith validated and worthy of our trust, our following, and our obedience. Jesus is real.